You're standing in the grocery store checkout line. Nothing fancy in your cart. Chicken breasts, some vegetables, milk, cereal for the kids. The total flashes on the screen. $127. Your stomach drops a little. Not because you can't afford it exactly, but because you just did this 3 days ago. And your bank account shows you make good money. Really good money, actually. 70, 80, maybe even $100,000 a year. So why does buying groceries feel like a luxury? Here's what nobody tells you. If you are living what America calls average, you're not middle class. You're one broken transmission away from financial chaos. And the worst part? You did everything right. You went to college, you got the decent job, you bought the house in the good school district. You're checking all the boxes that used to mean security. But something broke in the equation. And today, we're going to do the math that nobody wants you to see.
I want you to forget every financial advice article you've ever read. Forget the one about cutting lattes. Forget the motivational stuff about side hustles and grinding harder. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The reason average feels so expensive isn't your spending habits. It's that the entire infrastructure of normal life has been repriced without your paycheck getting the memo. Most people think they're failing at money because they can't seem to get ahead. They look at their parents who bought a house at 25 and wonder what they're doing wrong. They see other people on social media who seem to have it all figured out and assume they're missing something obvious, some crucial piece of financial knowledge that everyone else got but somehow skipped them. But you're not doing anything wrong. The game changed. The costs quintupled while your salary maybe doubled. And everyone from your employer to your mortgage lender to your kid's college is pretending the old math still works. It doesn't.
Your parents bought their first house for 3 times their annual salary. You're looking at houses that cost 7 or 8 times yours. Their college tuition was something they could work their way through with a summer job. Yours required loans that'll follow you into your 40s. Their cars lasted 15 years. Yours has a computer system that costs $3,000 to replace when it fails. The infrastructure of normal life got expensive, but we're all still pretending it didn't. Let me show you what I mean.
Let's start with what average actually looks like in 2026. The median household income in America is about $84,000. That sounds solid, right? That sounds like you should be comfortable. You're not rich, but you should be okay. You should be able to take a vacation once a year, save for retirement, maybe help your kids with college someday. Except here's what actually happens to that money. Before you even see a dollar, the government takes federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, Medicare. Then your employer probably auto-deducts retirement contributions because that's what responsible people do, and you want to retire someday. By the time the money hits your checking account, that $84,000 has become about $5,400 a month. Already, you've lost more than a third of what you thought you were making. Now let's talk about where it goes.
Housing. The standard advice says spend 30% of your income on housing. Sounds reasonable until you realize that 30% of your take-home is $2,100 a month. Good luck finding a safe, decent place for a family in most of America for that. Maybe you can in a rural area or a declining Rust Belt city, but anywhere with actual jobs, anywhere with decent schools, you're looking at significantly more. But let's say you manage it. You find something. You're down to $3,360. Transportation. You need a car. Actually, you probably need 2 cars because you and your partner both work and your city doesn't have real public transit. Between the car payments, insurance, gas, and maintenance, you're looking at about $1,300 a month. And before you say that's too high, remember, the average new car payment in America is over $700 now. Insurance keeps climbing, gas fluctuates but never goes down for long. Now you're at $2,060.
Food. A family of 4 eating reasonably healthy food costs around $700 a month. And that's if you're good at meal planning and never order delivery when you're too exhausted to cook after working all day. That's if nobody has dietary restrictions. That's if you're buying store brands and cooking from scratch most nights. You're down to $1,360. Utilities, internet, phones. Basic modern life costs about $350 a month. Electric, gas, water, trash, internet that's fast enough for everyone to work and learn from home when needed, phone plans for the family, $1,010 left. Health insurance. Even with an employer plan, you're paying premiums, let's say $200 a month, and that's before you actually use it, before the deductible, before the copays, before the thing your insurance decides isn't covered after all. 810 remaining. Student loans. The average payment is about $350 a month. And if you went to graduate school or a private college or just had the misfortune of needing to borrow for living expenses too, it's higher. Now you've got $460. $460. That's what's left from $84,000 a year after covering just the basic infrastructure of existing. No clothes for work or for the kids who keep growing, no emergency fund, no saving for your kids' college, no retirement beyond that auto deduct that might not be enough, no entertainment, no hobbies, no birthday presents for family, no dental work, no vision care, no haircuts, no household repairs, no saving for a new car when this one dies, no Christmas gifts, no school supplies, no car repair when the check engine light comes on. One unexpected bill and you're in debt. And life is made of unexpected bills. The dishwasher breaks, the kid needs braces, the dog gets sick, the car needs new tires, your aging parent needs help, someone gets laid off for 3 months, the furnace dies in January. Pick any one of those and that $460 is gone. Pick 2 and you're on a credit card. Pick 3 and you're in a hole that takes years to climb out of.
And here's the thing that makes it so psychologically brutal. You know you're supposed to be doing better. Every financial expert tells you to have 6 months of expenses saved. They tell you to invest 15% of your income. They tell you to max out your retirement accounts. They tell you to save for your kids' education. They tell you to have an emergency fund and a vacation fund and a car replacement fund. And you can't figure out where that money is supposed to come from because you're already out of money and you haven't bought anything unreasonable. You're not living large. You're not being reckless. You're just existing, participating in normal life. So you start to internalize it as a personal failing. You must be bad with money. You must be spending on stupid stuff you don't remember. You must not be disciplined enough. You must not be smart enough to figure out what everyone else apparently has figured out. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is that the cost of basic participation in American life has become unaffordable on an American salary.
Think about it. Since 1990, housing costs have gone up 400%. Wages have gone up maybe 180%. College tuition has increased over 500%. Healthcare costs have tripled. Every major piece of normal life got dramatically more expensive while your paycheck grew at a fraction of that rate. Your parents could work a middle-class job and afford a middle-class life. The math worked. One income could support a family. You could pay for college with a part-time job. You could buy a house in your 20s. The American dream wasn't just a slogan, it was achievable math. That math doesn't work anymore. The equation broke. But everyone's still teaching you the old formulas and wondering why you can't make them balance. And then they tell you the problem is your spending, your avocado toast, your streaming subscriptions, your occasional coffee, as if $12 a month for Netflix is what's standing between you and financial security. Now here's where it gets really dark. You might be thinking, okay, but what if I make more? What if I get promoted? What if I hit 6 figures? Surely that fixes everything. Let me introduce you to the reality of being above average. Let's say you make $130,000 a year. You're in the top 20% of earners. You've made it, right? You did the work, you got the promotions, you climbed the ladder. This is where life gets comfortable. After taxes and retirement, you're taking home about $7,100 a month. But now your life has changed too. Your mortgage is $3,500 because you moved to the better school district with the better property taxes and the neighborhood where your kids can play outside safely. Your cars are nicer because you need to look the part at work and because, frankly, you can finally afford something reliable. That's $1,400 a month between the 2 vehicles. Groceries are $900 because you're feeding growing teenagers who eat everything in sight and because you can finally afford the organic produce and the grass-fed beef that you couldn't before. Healthcare is $650 because someone broke their arm playing soccer and you're still paying off the deductible. Plus, your employer plan is worse now because you make more so they contribute less. Childcare or after-school programs are $800 because both parents work demanding jobs and the kids need to be somewhere safe and enriching.
Student loans are still $600 because those don't care how much you make now. Utilities and phones are $250. Add that up, that's $7,100. You've got nothing left. Actually, you're over. And we haven't even talked about the pressure to take family vacations because you work so hard you need to reconnect, or replacing the aging water heater before it floods your basement, or buying new work clothes when the old ones wear out because you can't show up to client meetings looking shabby, or contributing to the school fundraiser or the neighborhood association fees, or saving for college for the kids because they're getting older and you haven't started yet.
Making more money didn't solve the problem. It just gave you a more expensive version of the same trap. Because here's what happens. Every time you move up in income, the social expectations move up with you. You can't live in the tiny apartment anymore. Your colleagues would judge you. You need the nicer car because you're driving clients around. Your kids are in activities because all the other kids in this neighborhood are in activities and you don't want them to be left out. You're expected to contribute to charity. You're expected to host occasionally. You're expected to look successful. You're spending more to maintain the image of the income level you achieved. You didn't escape, you just upgraded your cage. It's a nicer cage with better furniture and a prettier view, but you're still trapped, still one crisis away from disaster, still unable to quit the job you're burning out from because your entire life is structured around that paycheck.
And nobody warns you about this because everybody you interact with financially benefits from you not knowing. The mortgage broker gets paid when you buy the biggest house you qualify for. They don't get a bonus for talking you into the smaller, more affordable place. The car dealer makes more commission when you finance the luxury model instead of buying the basic sedan with cash. The university doesn't care if your degree costs more than your first 5 years of salary. They already got paid, and the loan is your problem now. Your employer needs you dependent on the paycheck, so you won't negotiate too hard, or leave for something better, or demand actual work-life balance. Even the credit card companies are counting on you overspending and carrying a balance because that's where they make their money. The entire system is designed to keep you running on the hamster wheel, working to pay for the things you need to keep working, too tired to do the math, too stressed to make changes, too locked in by obligations to walk away. And the worst part? It's all normalized. Everyone around you is doing the same thing, so it feels like this is just how life works. This is what being an adult means. But it didn't used to be this way, and it doesn't have to be this way. So what do you actually do about this? First, you run your real numbers. Not the numbers the bank uses to qualify you for a loan. Not the numbers your parents used in 1985. Your actual take-home pay after everything comes out. Your actual fixed expenses, the things you're locked into and can't change easily. If everything you're committed to, housing, cars, loans, insurance, childcare, is eating more than 50% of your take-home, you are structurally vulnerable. You're one emergency away from crisis, one job loss away from catastrophe. The math doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about your intentions or your effort. It just is. And I know looking at these numbers honestly is scary. It's easier to just not think about it and hope it works out. But hoping isn't a strategy. The numbers are what they are, whether you look at them or not. The only question is whether you look while you still have options, or whether you wait until you're in crisis.
Second, you identify your biggest vampire. For most people, it's housing and cars. These are the two expenses that consume the most money and create the longest commitments. A 30-year mortgage, a 6-year car loan. These decisions echo through your life for years, consuming money every single month, regardless of whether your circumstances change. And here's the hard truth. Downsizing feels like failure. Moving to a smaller place feels like going backward. Driving an older car feels like admitting you're not successful. We've been conditioned to see these things as markers of achievement, so reducing them feels like admitting defeat. But here's what's actually true. The person with the smaller fixed costs is building wealth. The person with the impressive house and the nice cars is building an image. One of those things gives you options. The other one traps you.
The person in the modest house with the paid-off car can weather a job loss, can take a risk on a better opportunity, can say no to unreasonable demands at work, can retire someday. The person with the big mortgage and the luxury car payments can do none of those things. They're locked in. They have to say yes. They have to stay. They have no choice. Third, you protect the gap. The gap is the most important number in your financial life. It's the space between what you earn and what you absolutely need to spend. If there's no gap, there's no progress. There's no emergency fund. There's no retirement. There's no ability to weather a job loss or a health crisis. There's no freedom. You need a gap, even if it's small, even if it means disappointing people or living below what your income should afford, even if it means making choices that feel uncomfortable. 10% minimum, 20% if you can. Not after you buy everything else, before. Automatically, like a bill you can't skip. Because if you wait until the end of the month to save what's left over, there will never be anything left over. There's always something else to buy, something else that feels important in the moment.
Here's the thing about all of this that nobody wants to say out loud. It's hard to live below your means when your means look successful. It's hard to drive the paid-off car when your coworkers are pulling up in new leases. It's hard to rent when your friends are buying houses and posting about it. It's hard to skip the expensive vacation when everyone's Instagram is full of beaches and mountains. It's hard to say no to your kids when all their friends have the thing they're asking for. The social pressure is real. The judgment is real. The feeling that you're somehow failing or being cheap or depriving yourself is real. But you know what else is hard? Being 55 and realizing you can't retire. Being 40 and having a health scare with no savings to fall back on. Being 30 and knowing that one job loss would destroy you financially. Being any age and feeling trapped in a job you hate because you can't afford to leave. Lying awake at night, running the numbers in your head and watching them not add up again.
You get to choose your hard, but only one kind of hard builds freedom. The other kind builds a prison that looks nice on Instagram. Most people won't make these changes. They'll keep believing that the next raise will fix it, that next year will be different, that once they get past this particular expense, everything will smooth out. They'll keep trying to earn their way out of a spending problem, and they'll wake up at 65 still stressed about money, still dependent on a paycheck, still one crisis away from disaster. But you don't have to be most people. The American dream used to be achievable on an average income. That's not true anymore, and pretending it is only makes you feel like you're failing. You're not failing. The math failed. The system failed to adjust. The costs went up, but the salaries didn't keep pace. And now we're all trying to live a 1985 life on 1985 formulas with 2026 prices. And now you have to make different choices than your parents did, because you're playing a different game with different rules.
You don't win by looking like you're winning. You win by building a gap between your income and your expenses and protecting that gap like your life depends on it. Because it does. Not your literal life, maybe, but the life you actually want. The one where you sleep soundly, where you can handle surprises, where you're not trapped by every bill and every obligation, where you have choices, where you can take a chance on something that matters to you, where you can help someone you love when they need it, where you can walk away from something that's hurting you. That life doesn't come from earning more, though more income helps. It comes from needing less than you make, from building space between your income and your expenses, from making choices that prioritize freedom over image.
Choose the gap. Choose freedom, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it doesn't look impressive, even when other people don't understand. Because 20 years from now, nobody's going to remember what car you drove or what neighborhood you lived in, but you're going to remember whether you were free or whether you were trapped, whether you had options or whether you were stuck, whether you could breathe or whether you were drowning. Make the choice that builds the life you can actually live in, not the life that looks good in photos, but the one that feels good when you're alone with your thoughts at 3 in the morning. That's the life worth building, and it starts with honest math and hard choices. But it's worth it. I promise you, it's worth it.